Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video I'm going to have the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we have seen an upgrade in those warnings today. We have still got that widespread yellow warning, but we now have an amber warning issued for parts of western and northern Scotland, and we've also seen the system being named. It is officially Storm Ashley, of course beginning with an A, being the first named storm of the season. That is going to be exceptionally intense through Sunday in northern regions. We are going to see very strong gusty winds quite widely up and down the country and some heavy rain, but it's mainly Northern Ireland, Western Scotland and Northern Scotland that are going to bear the brunt of those winds. As said, could get up to 70, 80 miles per hour. Even the UKV today showing maybe 90 to maybe 100 mile an hour right on the coast. So as I said, we'll look at the latest UKV, looking at the precipitation temperature and those wind gusts, of course. And then we'll finish the video by having a look at some of those longer range charts to keep on top of what is going to be happening as we head into late October and the start of November. Of course, we have been looking at quite a high chance of a fairly flat westerly flow developing. That still looks like it's going to be quite likely, especially next week. But already we're starting to see hints of a bit of a change, perhaps, into the start of November. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in description. Now, to start on the live radar, you can see the westerly winds getting unlocked at the moment. A cold front sweeping through at the moment. We anticipated a bit of line convection developing within this cold front that you can see is sat across Wales, southwest England, northwest England into Scotland, but not seeing too much line convection taking off. You can see that darker line just developing in there. That is some line convection, but it's not sort of the reds that we can see, where it is exceptionally intense. Nonetheless, when that does move through, even though it looks like a very subtle line of convection there, it will suddenly pick up in terms of winds and precipitation intensity, and it probably will become a little bit more defined as the rest of the precipitation slowly peters away further eastwards. But you can see it is a wet night this evening, recording this around 9:30, and most likely some of that rain will linger into the morning, especially for eastern England. Now, it has been a very muggy week this week, temperatures getting up towards 22 degrees earlier, but we are starting to see cooler temperatures coming in now. Not particularly cold by any means, back towards average or slightly above average. More yellows around, but not the oranges we were seeing a few days ago. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings now, you can see the widespread warnings we have for Sunday. Got this widespread yellow wind warning covering all of Scotland, Northern England, especially towards the Scottish borders, and specifically the Lake District as well. Northern and Western Wales, particularly coastal areas, but coming inland as well, and the whole of Northern Ireland. Yes, the Republic of Ireland will be seeing some significant impacts as well. It's just not covered on the Met Office warnings. Now, if you look at the yellow warning first of all, it has been refined. Now will last 3 a.m. until midnight on Sunday for Storm Ashley, bringing strong winds which could cause disruption on Sunday. You see here a windy period across the whole of the UK on Sunday into Monday, and there's increased chance of disruption across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, northwest England and northwest Wales. You can see it's initially strong south to southeasterly winds, 50 to 60, maybe 60 to 70, and then they'll turn more southwesterly around the centre of the low, maybe 70 to 80 in exposed areas, 55 to 65 in most areas. But of course, amber warning zone could be even higher, and I suspect the amber warning could even be a bit more widespread if we get another update tomorrow. You can see it is medium impact and low likelihood, so it is very close to an amber warning across much of this area. So again, I wouldn't be surprised, maybe Northern Ireland and more extensively across Scotland, seeing this warning updated. You can see it was updated earlier this morning, changing the likelihood of medium impacts from very low to low and adding southwest Wales to the region, and of course changing the end time. If we do look at the yellow warning for Monday, before we do cover the amber warning, this is in force for Monday morning, essentially across much of northern Scotland for Storm Ashley clearing away. Again, we're not expecting to see an amber warning issued here, but this is for the back edge winds, where we could still see high impacts, high winds, 50, 60, maybe 70, but should be nowhere near as widespread and should die away quickly through the morning. But of course, if we look at the amber warning, it's issued from 9 a.m. until midnight. So a fairly a long amber warning, 15 hours or so. And again, we are looking widely at 70 to 80 miles per hour could be even higher. And of course, as stated here, there's high spring tides, large waves, and there could be a greater risk of disruption across coastal regions than we would see without those other impacts. Again, you can see it is medium impact and medium likelihood. So we're not looking at any chance of a red warning here. We would need to see at least this upgraded twice more really to see a red warning. But definitely a strong amber warning. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if this warning got extended or adjusted as we head into tomorrow, because the wind field does look very big around the centre of the low. Now, if we do go over to the UKV now, and if we do start on the precipitation, you can see the cold front sweeping through at the moment, line convection developing along it, nowhere near as sort of organised in reality as we're seeing here. But again, it could become a little bit more organised later in the evening. We'll have to wait and see. Rain lingers into Saturday morning, slowly clearing around lunchtime. And for the rest of the day, it's pretty sunny and fairly pleasant. A little bit chillier with colder air in place. But again, nothing too bad. But as we head into Sunday, weather fronts approaching from the west, and this is the initial front associated with Storm Ashley. Now, there will be very strong winds here with this initial weather front, maybe 60 to 70 miles per hour. But the strongest winds, the reason why it's been named and the reason why we've got amber warning is for the winds around the centre of the low. So we get a first kind of wave of winds here through Sunday morning. That weather front clears through the afternoon and it's around the centre of the low here, coming in for western parts of Scotland on that southern and eastern flank where we see these areas of precipitation, this convection wrapping around the centre of the low. That's where we could see the exceptionally strong winds, 80, 90, maybe even 100 out to sea or towards coastal regions as this does sweep through. If you're further southwards through Sunday evening, it's going to be actually a pretty sunny and pleasant evening. Yes, it might be still a bit gusty, still 30, 40, 50 mile per hour winds, but actually for much of England and Wales, you might think this is actually a really pleasant afternoon and evening with lots of sunshine. But the wind will be very strong and it picks up very quickly as we head northwards. We'll look at those, as I said, wind gusts in a moment. As we progress into Monday, a bit of rain in the far southeast, a lot of uncertainty with this. Again, very small shifts in its northern or western extent could make a whole host of differences to Monday. But at the moment, just clipping southeastern regions could come further inland. We've seen systems like this come 50 miles further inland before and given heavy rain in places that had no forecast of heavy rain. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that. But for most on Monday, it's a western flow with showers pushing in. And then into Tuesday, more showers, and eventually you can see another weather front is coming in from the west as we head into Wednesday evening. So keeping that westerly flow going. Of course, high pressure is trying to nudge up from the south, so always is going to be a bit of a battle, and it's more likely to rain further northwards because of that. But that westerly flow is persisting for much of next week. Now, if you look at the wind gusts, you can see nothing too crazy coming over the next 24 hours. But then look at Saturday evening into Sunday. A strong sort of big wall of red there of winds around the 60 to 70 mile per hour point, coming fairly far inland, even for parts of England and Wales. We're looking at 40, 50 miles per hour. But it's really around the centre of the low here, round across Sunday afternoon. We're looking at a large area of 60 to 80 miles per hour. And for those regions of Western Scotland, could see 90, maybe 100. And I'm looking at this, would it be surprised if the amber warning is extended further eastwards, perhaps across parts of Northern Ireland as well, maybe even the far northwest of England and southwest of Scotland, specifically for coastal regions. But you can see a very large wind field. It does drop off quite quickly into England and Wales, where it's just a windy day, but nothing special. But for those northern regions, it could be extreme indeed. 100 mile an hour winds. Again, if this was further southwards, we would be talking about this a lot more, because these sort of winds in any urban areas would be exceptionally disruptive. Fortunately, this is probably affecting the most sparsely populated region on the British Isles. So hopefully there's not too many impacts, but meteorologically this is an exceptionally strong storm from the looks of it at the moment. It does clear through Sunday evening into Monday morning, and by around midnight on Monday we should have cleared those gale force winds, should be back down more towards the 50-60 mile per hour point, and you see still lingering into Monday but very quickly dropping off. So by Monday afternoon we're all back into better conditions, and again could be some gusty winds again into the week, but mostly it's back towards more autumnal sort of pattern. If you look at the temperatures, Can see as we head into Saturday, it is still mild, but not quite as mild as the week has been, maybe 15, 16 at best. Into Sunday, of course, with those strong winds around, it will feel cold, but in the south, where those winds are a little bit more sheltered, a bit lighter, maybe 16 or 17. Into Monday, again, it's a quite variable day, but mostly 10 to 15 degrees. And the same really can be said for Tuesday and for Wednesday. Maybe climbing slightly higher, 16 or 17, but generally average to slightly above average for the time of year with this flat westerly flow. Now, if you go over to the latest GFS, let's have a look at some of the longer range charts. We will focus more on Storm Ashley in tomorrow's video, looking at more various models, as we'll have all models now in sort of the time frame, and we won't look at the longer range. So we'll focus on the longer range now. We won't have a look at it in tomorrow's video. We'll really focus on Ashley. So I do want to look at these models in a little bit of detail this evening. But you can see westerly flow pushing in at the moment, that storm actually forming there as we head into Sunday. Really severe system, eventually clearing, and you can see the flat westerly flow sort of oscillating between high pressure and lower pressure. You can see there is a little bit more high pressure starting to build in the extended range, but still plenty of low pressure trying to push in. Interestingly though, at day 10, high pressure starts to win out. And look what happens towards the end of the run. Scandinavian high, and easterly winds. Now, this would be a big hype chart if we were in around 6 weeks' time. If we were in sort of late November, early December, this would be hyped up massively because of easterly wind coming in from out all the way from Scandinavia would be very cold. Now, because it's early November, it is cold, but it's not very cold. For the time of year, it's chilly. It's 6 to 8 degrees below average. But in sort of actual terms, you need the air mass about 5 to 10 degrees colder to see any sort of substantive snow or cold spell. But the synoptics are intriguing with a very strong easterly wind, completely negating that westerly flow that is trying to take over. Again, could just be the GFS going off on one like it regularly does during the winter months. Again, can't really rely on any GFS chart outside of day 7. More speculative generally, but again, interesting nonetheless. We'll have to keep a very close eye on it, because if this does continue to crop up, then yeah, it could be in for an interesting November if we do start to see easterlies and colder air starting to develop. Now, do look at the latest GM. Again, broadly very similar over the coming days. Lots of low pressure with Storm Ashley clearing into Monday. And then again, high pressure to our south, low pressure to our north with a flat westerly. High pressure oscillating with lower pressure. Again, look at day 10. High pressure building in and extending towards Scandinavia. Now, attempting to push easterly winds in here. Not doing it because this low over Iceland stopping that easterly from developing. It's holding that westerly wind and kind of keeping us in a bit of a lull. And you can kind of see that all the air masses clashing. But interesting nonetheless that GM is also trying to build a bit of a Scandinavian high. Again, I must emphasise, it's way too early in the year or in the season to see anything majorly cold. But again, it would be a very interesting synoptic pattern for November and potentially coinciding with Halloween. Now, if you compare to the ECN though, we have to finish off, again, a westerly flow pushing in. Storm actually clearing into Monday, and we keep that westerly flow through much of the week. And again, a day 10 high pressure trying to nudge in and trying to build over the top of us, but really not doing much. Actually keeping us slightly drier and warmer there with some warmer air masses riding over that high. But again, look what happened to Scandinavia towards Siberia. A lobe of high pressure building, and again, trying to develop easterly winds across Europe. Again, this chart developing in 6 weeks' time, there would be huge intrigue, as this would potentially have knock-on effects to major cold or even or long cold spells for the UK. But again, just hints at this stage, and of course it is a good 4, 5, 6 weeks too early to be seeing anything too crazy. But we'll have to wait and see. Very interesting nonetheless from the models, and again, we'll probably take this into account in our next winter update, which hopefully should be coming out in the next week or two. Now, to finish by having a look at the latest ensembles, very up and down over the next couple of weeks. That's expected with a westerly flow. Some chillier air masses developing in the longer range. Again, that could be some of those ensemble members looking at that Scandinavian high, like the operational one, which does develop chilly air. Again, not amazingly cold. We need sort of -5 to -10 to see snow, and you can see about 2 ensemble members get there, but most get us below freezing. Again, that could allow frosts and just generally cold conditions to develop. You can see there is high precipitation at times, but equally some dry spells, which is expected further southwards where we've got some higher pressure. And then if we finally compare to the ECMWF ensembles, pretty much the same, oscillating up and down, less of a colder signal in the longer range, but very similar in terms of precipitation. So yeah, very disruptive next few days, especially for those northern or western regions with storm actually moving in. So make sure you stay safe. And of course, we'll have another update out tomorrow, looking in those high resolution models in a little bit more detail. And hopefully we have another update to those weather warnings to share. Of course, into next week, westerly flow. It doesn't look like it's going to be terrifically unsettled, but there will still be rain, colder conditions at times, and stronger winds. But hopefully, especially in the south, we could see high pressure nudging in. And again, that longer range, especially towards Halloween and the start of November, is still up for debate. Hopefully, we see a little bit more consistent in the next couple of days, and maybe instead even a Scandinavian high developing. So I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.